Before Noah built the ark, something came down from heaven that should never have touched the earth. Before the flood had a name, the first disaster was not water, but desire wearing borrowed holy light. The world did not begin drowning when the rain fell, but when its guardians forgot the border. Above them stood the watchers, 200 lights, appointed to guard the fragile children of dust below. They were not sent to rule mankind, not to taste mankind, but to keep watch from the sacred height. Their task was holy because it required distance, and distance was the first mercy they failed to love. At first, their seeing was obedience, but seeing repeated too long became a hunger without a name. Among them stood Azazel, bright and severe, carrying silence like a blade beneath folded wings. He did not hate humanity, and that made his danger harder for the other watchers to see clearly. That ache entered Azazel slowly, not as revolt, but as pity turning its face toward possession.
They die, and still they love. They lose, and still they reach for one another. We were commanded to guard them, Azazel, not to envy the wound of flesh. I do not envy the wound. I only wonder why their weakness burns so brightly.
He was counted first among them, not because he was purest, but because others followed his unrest. In him, doubt did not arrive as thunder, but as fear of standing alone in forbidden desire.
I fear this thought will ruin only me if I speak what others bury in silence. A thought shared by many is not one angel's burden. It is a door already opening.
The watchers looked, and a pointed sight became a gaze that crossed the line it was sent to guard. The first fall of the watchers began with a look that refused to remain only a look. Mount Hermon rose beneath them, cold and solemn, as if the mountain knew it would keep their oath.
I will not descend alone and bear the curse, while others hide behind clean wings. Then bind us together, so no one turns back, and no one stands apart. A single desire can be denied, but a sworn desire becomes a kingdom.
They did not call it rebellion. They called it courage, compassion, discovery, and freedom made complete. Darkness often begins by asking for a gentler name before it dares reveal its true face. Semyaza stretched his hand toward the stone, and 200 voices lowered into one vow.
Let us swear together, and let the curse find all of us if any turns back.
We swear, and we bind ourselves beneath this mountain until the deed is done.
The oath entered Hermon like iron driven into living rock, and the mountain received what heaven would not. Below them, the earth trembled, not because it understood, but because order had been crossed. Then they descended, not as protectors coming to the weak, but as guardians choosing possession. Their feet touched soil, and men fell backward before beings whose brightness wounded the morning.
Do not fear us. We have watched your grief longer than you have known your names.
If you are from heaven, why do your eyes search like hungry men?
Because the heights are far, and the heart grows restless when it only sees from a distance.
The danger was nearness without holiness, beauty without obedience, and desire wearing borrowed light. The watchers took wives from the daughters of men, choosing what their eyes had already claimed. The first children were born beneath strange skies, and midwives trembled before their impossible weight. They were not ordinary sons, and the air around their cradles pressed like a coming storm. Their limbs grew too quickly, their voices deepened too soon, and hunger woke before wisdom could follow. Mothers held them with love, But love could not tell those children where they belonged. They were born between heaven and earth. And the space between worlds became their first wound. One child lifted a stone basin with both hands before he had learned to speak clearly. The village cheered at first, until the basin cracked and crushed the foot of the woman beside him. The boy stared at the blood, then at his hands, and his mother pulled him close while shaking.
Mother, why does everything break when I only try to hold it?
Because the world was not made ready for the strength inside you.
That boy grew taller than rooftops, broader than gates, and lonelier than every song sung about him. His oldest name moved through tribes like thunder held inside a human mouth at night.
Nephilim, fallen ones born from a height we were never meant to touch.
Their fathers watched them grow with pride first, then unease, then fear. No angel wished to confess.
They are our sons, yet something in them looks back at us like accusation.
Do not fear what we have made. Teach them, and they will become more than men.
Or we have made what neither heaven nor earth can command without sorrow.
He believed knowledge would give the children shape, and shape would save them from their blood. He taught metal to surrender to fire, and fire to enter the shape of knives and crowns. He taught ornaments, pigment, mirrors, and the arts by which the face could become a weapon. Other watchers taught star courses, season counting, herb murmurs, and hidden powers beneath creation. Human hands grew clever, faster than human hearts grew humble, and the imbalance became a wound. A farmer took AZAZEL'S first iron blade to defend his field from a raiding giant. By nightfall, he had used the same blade on his brother over the boundary between their stones. His wife found them in the dust, one dead, one weeping, both ruined by a gift called protection.
I gave them tools so they would not remain helpless beneath stronger things.
A tool without reverence becomes a blade with no hand wise enough to bear it.
Azazel turned, for the voice had not come from heaven, but from a man among broken stones. His name was Enoch, a quiet witness known to heaven, though many men passed him without honor. Yet his eyes carried the stillness of one who had seen the world changing and refused denial.
You were sent to guard the boundary, not to become the wound that crosses it. You were born beneath dust, yet you speak as if the courts above lent you breath. Dust can hear what pride misses, because dust remembers that it is not the throne.
Enoch had once been only a man who listened to the earth when others listened to giants. He had heard mothers stop singing, doors barred before sunset, and children trained not to breathe. He had wanted to be wrong, because a prophet who loves mankind fears being proved right. He understood that the world had not merely changed, it had been taught to wound itself. Enoch did not shout at Azazel, because a witness needs no thunder when truth already stands awake. Around them, the first cities of the giants rose like pride, learning to become architecture. The Nephilim walked through those cities like kings born too large for every gate below. They made laws from appetite, measured justice by conquest, and called every smaller life beneath them. Enoch saw one mother hide her child beneath reed mats when giant shadows crossed her doorway. Her hand covered the child's mouth, while her own tears fell silently on his frightened hair. A Nephilim soldier passed outside, dragging a broken gate as if it were a branch. The child whimpered once, and the mother pressed harder. Terrified breath itself would betray them. When the shadow passed, she lifted her hand and found the child still, blue-lipped and silent. Enoch saw her rock the little body without sound, because grief had become afraid to be heard.
Lord, do not make me only a mouth for judgment. Let me feel what you see.
No voice answered in thunder, but the sorrow inside him widened until it could carry witness.
You gave mankind secrets, but not wisdom enough to survive them.
I gave them power against fear, and men chose what their own hearts loved.
A teacher is not clean when he hands fire to a child and praises the flame.
Azazel's face tightened, not because the man was wrong, but because truth found the hidden wound. He looked toward distant towers where the Nephilim lifted banners made from conquered tribes. Among them stood Gilgamesh, the child of broken measure. Now, a king with no home. One morning, before war made him cruel, Gilgamesh found a human child trapped beneath a fallen beam. He lifted the beam with one hand and freed the boy. Expecting thanks from the village around him, the child looked up at his enormous face, screamed, and crawled away with blood on his knees. Every door closed, every window darkened. Gilgamesh stood holding the beam like a useless offering.
I saved him, Father. Why did he look at me as though I were death?
Because fear remembers sighs before it remembers mercy.
Then give me a name that fear cannot twist into a monster.
Azazel had no answer that could fit inside the wound. His own choice had opened. If love could not make him belong, power would at least make the world stop laughing. The Watchers crossed the boundary to touch mortal beauty, and their children became living curses. Yet, tragedy does not make corruption holy, and pain does not give rebellion a crown. Enoch saw both truths together, and that was why his witness cost him more than anger.
You sons of heaven have left the height and profaned the earth beneath your feet. The Most High has seen the violence, and the earth itself has carried witness.
Then the faithful angels looked down and saw that earth no longer sounded like the earth. Michael heard the violence and tightened his hand around the sword, not yet commanded to rise. Gabriel saw brother turn against brother, his face grave with the knowledge of coming division. Raphael looked toward Azazel, and sorrow moved through him before judgment sharpened into command. Uriel watched the generations of men, and the coming waters reflected within his burning eyes.
The boundary has been broken, and the wound multiplies through every generation.
Then mercy must bind what desire refused to leave untouched.
Their children devour the world, while the fathers still call it love. The earth is not asking for revenge. It is asking to be washed.
Their voices did not rise against the throne, because faithful servants do not speak judgment before command. They waited until the decree came from the height where mercy and justice are never divided. Enoch was lifted in vision, not away from sorrow, but deeper, where sorrow becomes record. He saw halls of fire, rivers of light, and books opened before the throne. No shadow approaches. He saw the Watchers as they truly were, no longer clothed in earthly praise. Their glory was wounded. Their wings were stained. Their oath on Hermon clung like iron. Then he understood why heaven had chosen a man to carry the answer back to angels. Now, they would beg a son of dust to stand between them and the throne they abandoned. Enoch trembled, because he wanted mercy for the children, even while he knew what they had become. His burden was not choosing sides. His burden was telling the truth to both sides. When Enoch returned, the Watchers came with fear, uncovered at last upon immortal faces.
Enoch, you walk with the one we cannot approach without trembling. Carry our plea upward, and ask if any peace remains for those who fell.
Ask for our sons also, for they were born from our sin but did not choose birth.
I will carry your words, but I cannot make mercy speak what judgment has not spoken.
Enoch carried the pleas upward, but the silence around him was not empty. It was decided, when he returned, the Watchers rose. As condemned men rise when the door opens before sentence, Azazel looked at him first. Because guilt often recognizes its answer before the mouth speaks.
No peace will be given to you, and no throne will erase what you have done.
Your children will perish, and you will watch the ruin your desire created. Then our oath has become a chain, and Hermon still holds what we swore. The chain was not forged by the mountain. It was forged by the will that refused the boundary.
Some Watchers wept without tears. Others covered their faces. Azazel did neither. Which was worse, he looked toward the cities where war drums had begun to answer one another at dusk. He understood that punishment would not arrive only from above. It had already begun inside the suns. Gilgamesh gathered the largest giants beneath banners, darkened by smoke, bone, and old victories. Gabriel moved unseen through cracks. Their pride had opened, and suspicion took root among them. He did not create their hatred. He revealed the hatred waiting beneath every alliance.
They bow with me today, but tomorrow they will measure my throat for a blade. He calls himself eldest in strength, but strength grows fat when no one dares test it.
The Nephilim turned upon one another, and earth shook beneath war too large for human fields. Azazel stood on a ridge and watched his sons kill with the knowledge he had given them.
I gave them blades to guard their lives, and now the blades have become their language. You gave them war before their hearts had learned the weight of peace. Raphael, you come without an army, so the sentence has passed beyond battle.
I did not come to fight you, Azazel. I came because the binding has arrived.
Sorrow told him heaven was not confused about him. Heaven had measured him and mourned him.
Tell me one thing, healer. Did heaven ever love the ones it now condemns? Love does not bless the wound, because the wounded hand calls it desire. And my sons, were they only evidence, born to die beneath an older judgment? They are sorrow, Azazel, but sorrow cannot be permitted to become Lord of Earth.
Below them, Gilgamesh struck down a giant king and lifted his weapon toward the silent sky.
Is this your answer to children who never asked to be born between worlds?
No voice answered, and the silence broke something in Azazel that pride had kept hidden. He did not kneel, but his wings lowered, and Ridgewind moved through them like funeral song. Raphael stepped forward, and chains of living fire appeared in his hands without anger or haste. Azazel looked once more at the battlefield, then at Enoch, standing below among the living. The witness and the transgressor met eyes across the dying world, and neither looked away.
Tell the man of dust he was right, before I had courage to know it.
The man of dust has carried enough. Now you will carry what belongs to you.
The chains closed around Azazel, not as punishment alone, but as the shape of refused boundary. Raphael cast him down into darkness, and Earth received the first great prisoner of the Watchers. From beneath the ground, Azazel heard giants fighting, and every cry entered him as fatherhood. Far from the towers, far from giant kings, a man worked soil with quiet, obedient hands. The skies darkened over him one evening, and light descended like fire that did not consume. Noah lifted his face, and the voice that shaped creation entered the silence around his breath.
The end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence. Make for yourself an ark of gopher wood, and prepare refuge before waters rise.
Noah trembled, but he did not argue, because obedience had become rare enough to shine. Before him, the wood of the ark waited like a question. Only faith could answer with labor.
Noah, where is the sea that will carry this house you build in dust?
The sea has not arrived yet, but the word of God arrived before it. Then let your God bring water, and we will see if wood can save a fool.
Noah did not answer laughter, because obedience does not become stronger by defending itself aloud. He kept cutting, lifting, joining, sealing, and measuring while Earth's cries rose behind him. Gilgamesh stood above broken gates, surrounded by giants who once called him brother and now threat.
We were born from heaven's desire, yet heaven now turns its face from us.
Then let heaven hear us by the ruin we leave beneath its silence.
Accuse if you must, but every accusation now stands beneath an empty tomb.
I wanted to give them strength, and strength has become the hunger that devours them.
The righteous dead heard it, and hope became more than memory, longing, or a distant promise coming awake.
The hour has come. Enter the ark, and do not look back for what cannot be healed. My heart trembles for the world, but my feet will obey the voice that called me.
Then the animals came, not driven by fear, but drawn by command older than instinct. Noah watched them enter. Tfabitu. As creation gathered its own memory into shelter, clouds rose like black walls, and the wind began to smell of deep places opening. Then the door of the ark closed, not by human strength, but by the hand no mocker resisted. Silence followed, deep and absolute. The kind before a world discovers it waited too long. The fountains of the deep burst open, and the ground groaned as hidden waters rose. The Nephilim did not run at first, because giants believe height shields against every judgment. They climbed mountains with iron weapons, dragging the memory of victories through rising waters.
We were born from those who came down from heaven, and still heaven drowns us.
Is this your answer to children who never asked for the blood that made them?
Thunder answered him, not as cruelty, but as the sound of a world being closed. Around him, giants shouted, cursed, prayed, and fought the flood as they had fought everything. But water does not honor strength, and judgment does not kneel before the size of a body. On a lower ridge, the same boy Gilgamesh, once saved, clung to an olive tree, now grown. The man saw the giant above him and reached out with terror and pleading.
Please! You saved me once! Save me now, if any mercy remains in you!
Gilgamesh reached for him, and for one moment, the old kindness returned through the king. The wave struck before his hand arrived, sweeping the man into the roar below. Gilgamesh stared at the empty branch, and something inside him stopped blaming only heaven.
I had strength enough to break cities,
but not enough to hold one life.
One by one, the Nephilim disappeared beneath waters. Crowns, weapons, towers, and names sinking together beneath Dudael. Azazel heard the final cries and pressed bound hands against stone above him.
My sons, my impossible sons. I gave you a world that could not hold you.
The wound you opened has reached its end, but its echo will not end today.
Inside the ark, Noah knelt as wood groaned beneath waves that struck like moving mountains. Then came the sound he feared most. Not thunder, but human fists against the sealed door. Voices cried his name from outside. Neighbors who had mocked him. Children whose faces he knew. His youngest son moved toward the door, but Noah caught his wrist with shaking hands.
The door God has closed cannot be opened by pity that disobeys him.
He said it, and the sentence broke him. Because righteousness does not make grief painless, Noah pressed his forehead against the wood, while the cries faded into water and thunder. The earth that cried beneath violence now lay underwater like a wound wrapped in tears. Yet in unseen places, not everything born of corruption found rest beneath the flood. The bodies of the Nephilim sank, but the spirits within them could not return to heaven. They wandered between places, hungry, bodiless, bitter, and unable to forget what they had been. They had lost their bodies, but not appetite. And appetite without flesh becomes roaming torment. When the rain ceased, silence stretched across the waters like the first page of another age. What can water cleanse? And what does water leave, waiting in the unseen places below? At last, a wind passed over earth, and waters began withdrawing from the mountains. The ark rested upon Ararat, not as survival's monument, but as mercy placed on stone. Then Noah stepped onto a world stripped bare, washed clean, and terrible in its emptiness. The first thing Noah built was not a wall, and not a throne, but an altar of stones. The bow appeared in clouds, bending light across the sky like mercy, remembering judgment without denial. God set the sign above wounded earth, not because mankind was pure, but because mercy endured. Noah looked upon the colors and understood survival was not innocence, and beginning again was not forgetting. Yet stories would travel with them, whispered near fires, carried through names, fears, and bloodlines. Some would call them Anakim, some would call them Raphael, others would only call them terror. He had wanted to descend into the human story, and now he was buried beneath its warning. Enoch, the witness, looked upon the cleansed earth and saw judgment had ended only one age. The watchers were bound, the giants drowned. Noah was spared, yet the old wound still echoed.
The earth is washed, but the heart of man must learn why it was drowning.
That was the truth. No flood could make simple, and no rainbow could make less solemn. Water can cover violence, but only obedience closes the door where violence first entered. In the hidden silence beyond sealed places, another watcher studied the lesson carefully. Lucifer looked upon Azazel, bound in Dudael, and there was no pity in his ruined face. Lucifer understood what Azazel did not learn until it was too late to use.
Do not enter their flesh. Enter through their wounds.
The words moved through darkness like a law being born beneath the memory of the flood. Humanity had survived water, but hunger, shame, loneliness, fear, and pride survived inside humanity. Lucifer called the fallen near, not to mourn Azazel, but to study the failure of descent. He did not ask how to make men giants. He asked how to make small wounds feel like kingdoms. He had seen Azazel fail because corruption became visible too soon. Too huge, too easy to fear. The wiser darkness would not arrive with towering bodies, but with reasons that felt intimate and fair. It would speak inside hunger as if it were dignity, and inside shame as if it were truth. It would study the moment before prayer. When pain looks for any voice willing to answer, it would not need men to worship demons openly. It would teach men to worship their own injuries.
The giants failed because their bodies made the corruption easy to see.
Then we must make corruption sound like the injured soul defending itself. Let them look at another man's blessing until gratitude becomes accusation. Let their loneliness ask for comfort, and I will teach comfort to wear chains.
Lucifer listened, and the abyss around them seemed to understand its next kingdom more clearly. But mankind would not need giants to become dangerous, because men carried smaller doors inside. A cheated worker, a rejected son, a lonely woman, a hungry king, a frightened priest. Mammon would wait beside unpaid labor, where humiliation becomes a coin pressed into mud. Belial would wait beside language, where a lie can dress itself as a wounded man's defense. Leviathan would wait beside the brother, where another blessing looks like proof of rejection. Asmodeus would wait beside loneliness, where comfort can be shaped into a chain before dawn.
Do not force them to fall. Teach them to name the fall freedom. A soul defends sin more fiercely when it believes it invented the reason. Give me the poor man's humiliation, and I will make revenge sound like justice. Give me the brother beside him, and I will turn blessing into insult. Give me the empty bed, and I will make desire imitate healing.
Lucifer turned once more toward Dudiel, where Azazel's chains burned under forgotten stone. The first invasion had come down from heaven. The next would rise from within the heart. Only a wound, a whisper, and a soul willing to call the fall by another name. The flood buried their bodies, but something inside their story did not die. It would need only ordinary pain, taught patiently to believe that mercy was weakness. That is where the next war began. Not beneath Hermon, not beneath water, but within man. And unlike the giants, this war would be small enough to enter every ordinary house.